hello everyone and welcome to today's session. We're going to be looking at Microsoft's latest Wave 3 update for Copilot. So Avion introduced this a couple of months back before we had a break for Easter. So looking at those updates in a bit more depth today. So thanks for joining. The webinar is being recorded, so it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel very soon. I think Tom will publish a link to that channel in the chat if you want to go and check it out. But we will follow up with a link to the recording to everyone who's registered as well then, so keep an eye out for that. There will be a Q&A at the end as well, so please post any questions you have in the chat at any time. We'll go through them before we finish. And I know there are a couple of the Pugh team in the chat as well today, so if there's any sort of technical or licensing questions, they may be answered as we go then in the chat as well. So just a quick agenda. So my name is Mark Price and I'm the Business Development Director here at Pugh. Like I said, Wave 3 Copilot updates. So there's 3 key updates there. We've got Copilot Cowork, so that's the integration of Copilot with Anthropic's Claude models. We've got the Model Council, so that's in the researcher mode. So that lets you sort of compare GPT and Claude models side by side. We've got the Agentic Copilot features, so these were available already, but they've now become the default mode. So looking at edit with Copilot, or formerly agent mode in the Office apps. And then just quickly at the end, a few very quick updates on the education specific AI bits then. So we did a webinar back in November, but there are a couple of updates on that just to go through. So just to start off with what is Wave 3. So Microsoft do release Copilot updates very regularly, but they've tended to come the sort of major updates in 3 main waves. So if anyone doesn't know what Copilot is, just a quick intro. So it is Microsoft's AI tools built upon ChatGPT. They are very similar to ChatGPT, so if you haven't used it, the interface, the functionality and everything is very similar. So the Wave 1 was the original. So this is when Copilot was first sort of released, basically. So it started off with sort of quite basic chat functionality. We then had the sort of Wave 2, which was more Copilot chat being integrated into your Office apps and things like that. And then this Wave 3 now is more of a move towards agentic AI. So instead of your sort of simple prompts and single outputs, we're moving towards automated workflows and a lot more complex tasks, basically using Copilot. So like I said, we're going to start looking at the Cowork first. So this is quite a busy slide. I've only got a couple of slides before I try and show a bit of a live demo. But you might have heard about this already. There has been quite a lot of exposure on this. So historically, Copilot, like I said, because it was built upon the sort of ChatGPT model, it only had access to those GPT large language models. So that's where this has changed now. So using Cowork, Microsoft have integrated a new set of large language models, so the Anthropic's Claude models. And what this does is it lets you, like I said earlier, move from single output to longer running, deeper reasoning, sort of multi-app tasks then, which we'll look at in a bit. So they can go across all your Office apps, more sort of agentic capabilities. So you can still be asking it sort of one main prompt, but it'll break those down into tasks. It'll run them all at the same time. So you can start delegating a much bigger piece of work then, instead of having to just do one step at a time with smaller sort of prompts and smaller tasks. And if you haven't heard of Claude, so while OpenAI have ChatGPT and Microsoft have Copilot, so Claude is just Anthropic's version of AI. So it's just another AI tool, another set of AI models. They're all quite similar, but they do use slightly different large language models, and some will have slightly different sort of strengths then. So I think while ChatGPT is been the sort of typical leader and all-round tool, and that's by far the most common one. I think there has been a lot of growth with the Claude model, and a lot see it as a slightly better model for sort of deep reasoning, deeper research, sort of more intensive tasks, basically. So it's not designed to sort of replace GPT. So I'll show you in a bit, but Microsoft actually, there's a setting in Copilot now that sort of uses them both together. So you can, they complement each other quite well. You can still use both. You can use one or the other. You know, it's completely up to you, but it gives you that option then of trying out different models basically within Copilot. So if you're a beginner, you know, you can start thinking about, like I said, delegating bigger tasks, bigger workloads. And if you're a more advanced user, you'll see this and start thinking of the capabilities around more automated sort of end-to-end workflows as well. So it can get really powerful. And yeah, so like I said, you can see an example prompt there, and we'll look at one in a minute, but you can ask it a few different things. It'll break that down, and it'll work across all your apps, so Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. It'll call on basically what it needs to complete those tasks, and it'll do all that in the background then. So a key point to make is it does bring Claude into your Microsoft boundary, as you can see there. So it still respects your SharePoint permissions, your sensitivity labels, compliance controls, all those kind of things. So instead of previously having to go off to Claude and maybe upload your work files, and that's completely out of your Microsoft boundary, this integration brings that Claude capability into your Microsoft boundary. So it does work within those sort of data security and compliance controls you have in place, which is obviously something very important to a lot of you, I'm guessing, especially if you're thinking about developing your own AI strategies and policies then. In terms of how to access it, so again, just quickly, this is probably more for the sort of IT technical side of things, but it is in preview mode only at the moment. So there is a Copilot Frontier program. So you can get this enabled to get access to these, but it's not generally available yet. So Microsoft typically do this. They'll test it, get some feedback, improve it, and then I'm sure further down the line it will become generally available then. So the first thing, like I said, you need to do is enroll. If you do want to start using this Cowork and the Claude integrations, is to enroll to that Frontier program. The second one is any users using this will need a paid M365 Copilot license. So it won't work with a free Copilot chat. Even if you do have that Frontier enabled, it has to be the premium license. And then this had to be done by your sort of M365 one global admin or one of the admins. So they need to go in and basically enable Anthropic's Claude model. So at the moment, it's turned off by default, but you can go in and turn that on. So the main reason for that is, so GPT will work within your sort of data residency setting. So if you've got your data residency set to UK or EU, GPT models will honor that and work within those boundaries. At the moment, Microsoft can't guarantee that the Claude models will. So if you do turn this on, some data might be processed outside of the UK or EU, depending on where you're based. And like I said, that could be something they sort of address further down the line if it becomes generally available. I'm sure there's a way to make sure that works within your boundaries, similar to how the GPT model works. But that's something to think about if you are going to be testing this and piloting this. Just make sure it doesn't go against any of your sort of data security and compliance policies, that's all. So the next bit, we're going to try and do a bit of a live demo. Like I said, it is a preview, so it's not a sort of polished, finished product. It is very good. So hopefully we can have a go and show you some of this in action. So I'm just going to open the Copilot window here. So as you can see on the left there, I've got Cowork on the left enabled. So after meeting those prerequisites from an IT perspective, I had to come in, I had to search for all agents and type in Cowork and then add it to the left there just to sort of get things set up initially. And if I, yeah, so actually I'm in here already. So up the top here, you've got the auto, but you can see there that this uses the Claude models then. So it's just the Claude models that's in the Cowork functionality at the moment, because it's based on Claude Cowork functionality. So you've got Sonnet, which is the sort of the quicker response, sort of lighter approach, and then you've got Opus, which is the deeper reasoning for more intense sort of deep reasoning, deep research tasks. So you can pick either or you can just leave it on auto then, which will pretty much decide which model it thinks is the best fit for each prompt. So I've got a demo prompt here. I'm just going to drop in quickly and hit go on that. So basically, for the purposes of this sort of short demo, I created a couple of sample files, which I'm hoping is going to be able to find here. So one was just a simple Word document with some product brief in there, and then one was an Excel with some sales data. So I think it was around sort of a made-up company selling headsets, I think it was, and there's a new product launch with a particular headset. So that's what the prompt does, is I've basically asked it to find, if I just scroll up quickly, find those files and use them then to create a brief 3-slide PowerPoint to use as a briefing based on the product brief and the Excel sheet. I've asked it then to draft an email to brief my team with next steps, and also to create a placeholder meeting invite in my Outlook calendar. So that's one prompt, but as you can see there, so it sort of starts off as a typical prompt. It'll see all the updates in the middle here, and it's already popped up there with a placeholder meeting. So there you can create it. You can even ask it to create it automatically, and there's an option to do that in here. But if I just click create for now, that will just sort of confirm that you want it to create that and put it into your Outlook. And as you can see there on the right, so these will start appearing. So you've got your plan. So it's already broken that initial prompt into different tasks, and it's working through all those tasks simultaneously, all the same time. As soon as it starts preparing outputs, then that will show here as well as the skills and plugins, which is sort of what it needs to access really to create those outputs. So because we're sort of quite tight on time, it only takes about 3 or 4 minutes really, so it's probably not far off. But if I just go back to here, I can show you that. So this is where you'll see that in progress one, but obviously I've tested this quite a few times. So if I just go down to this one, as you can see at the top, it's the exact same, pretty much the exact same prompt, but I can just show you how it looks. So in the timeline, it's come up with those 3 deliverables. So the 3-slide PowerPoint, the draft email, and the meeting. And the output here then is what it's created using that sort of PowerPoint skills. If I just click on this quickly. So if you've used Copilot with PowerPoint outside of Cowork, you'll probably know that it can be a bit hit and miss. Sometimes it'll come up with something really good, and sometimes it's quite basic and quite sort of plain text. But as you can see here, I've only asked for a quick three-slide deck, but you could tell it's very professional, very clean. I'll admit it's a much better output than I've seen outside of Cowork. So this shows you the kind of powerful new functionality you'll get in this Cowork section then. So as well as the PowerPoint, I mean, you can open that, you can download it, open in PowerPoint, anything you want. And the other two deliverables then, so instead of having to maybe typically have your Copilot output an email or sort of tell you what sort of meeting to create, and then you have to go in and copy and paste and all that kind of stuff. What Cowork does is it works directly in your apps. If I open my, this is my live Outlook, and as you can see, I've run it quite a few times to test. But this is what it will produce. So it's created a draft directly in my live Outlook. It's done that sort of brief with some good information in there, ready to go. And that's just popped up as the one I've literally just ran. So this is one I did earlier. And what it can do then is also, because this is based on sample data, it hasn't picked up any sort of actual people to send it to. But if I was doing this in my live environment using actual, Pugh Computers documents, it'll pick up on the people, it'll drop them into the invites there, and you can send that to those, to my colleagues then with that meeting ready to go. You can even get Cowork to send that email directly as well if you want. So that's powerful. And then the third deliverable, just quickly. So if I open here, as you can see, again, I've got quite a few runs of this sample prompt, but it has created a placeholder meeting for me. So if I just click one of these, again, it'll have the required attendees if you go down to that point, but it'll have the placeholder, it'll have the agenda, all those kind of stuff. So all this has been produced in Cowork. It's given me a PowerPoint deliverable. It's accessed my drafts and did an email draft for me directly, and it's also put a placeholder calendar directly into my Outlook calendar. So that just gives a bit of a flavor of what Cowork can do. So I'm sure you'll all see how that can benefit you and speed up workflows. There's been a lot of, like I said, a lot of growth around the Claude models and the Anthropic models. So you can see why Microsoft have done these integrations. The work it can do is really, really powerful. So if I just go back quickly, I'll try and minimize all this. And all these. So that was Cowork quickly. The next bit I want to show is Model Council. So it flows quite nicely on from Cowork. So here it uses that Claude integration again, but this is actually built directly into the researcher agent. So Researcher is an agent pre-built by Microsoft that is a lot more aligned to sort of it's quite obvious, deep research really, and deep reasoning. It's got a lot of sort of critical thinking skills. It'll go off and look for a lot more sources, a lot more materials. And if you're not that familiar with agents, it's basically, so you could treat your AI tools like Copilot or ChatGPT as a broad AI tool that will go off, and find some sources. It'll answer your questions. It'll produce summaries, and all that's done quite quickly, really. So it's quite a broad tool, where agents then are designed for a lot. It's a lot narrower. It'll focus on a lot narrower scope, and it'll be designed to act in a particular way. So, like I said, the researcher will be designed to do that sort of deep research, really. And I think if I just go to the next slide. So if you haven't accessed it, you do need the M365 Copilot license again, but it's pre-built by Microsoft, and it should be appearing there if you've got the premium license on the left-hand side. So you can go off and use that. Analyst is another similar one that will analyze sort of raw data and things like that, another agent. But just to, internally at Pugh, we make big use of this. So a good use case recently, we used the researcher agent to produce a detailed risk assessment. So there was a big framework coming up, and we basically fed it all the framework documents. So you're talking sort of 10 plus large documents, including long T's and C's and things like that. We prompted it all our thoughts or sort of concerns and things like that, things we wanted to look into in a bit more detail. And it sort of went off and because it's a lot more complex, it's a lot deeper research, these do take longer. So it does take sort of between 10, sometimes up to about 30 minutes to produce. But I've got some stats there. So as you can see, it came up with a 35-page detailed risk assessment. It had a summary at the top, which was like a risk matrix, and then you could drill down to all the detail below. And that, so basically from starting to write the prompt to making a decision based on that risk assessment, it was an hour in total. So the actual prompt itself took about 20 minutes to return the output, but it's an hour process in total, which we sort of estimated at about 97% efficiency gain then. So to produce something that detailed with the level of research required, the level of reading through all the documents, and to produce a document that long, that probably would have taken someone a full week. So, that was one huge benefit, huge productivity gain and efficiency gain for us there. So like I said, this does use the Claude model, so the prerequisites are the same. So the research is available now, generally available, but if you want to do the model council, that does require the Frontier program enablement again, and it's the same prerequisites with turning on the Claude models as well. So again, I'm going to try and do a bit of a live demo on this. So if I switch back to Copilot, and if I just close this down. So like I said, this model council is in the researcher agent up here. And there are a couple of different options actually. So again, up here you've got auto, but you can, so as you can see, model council is where the GPT and Claude run together and you can compare output side by side, which I'll show in a sec. You've also got the critique, which goes back to what I was saying about how they complement each other. So this is where GPT will respond initially, and then that GPT output is run through Claude to refine it. So Microsoft have done a lot of research around this, and they've published some results showing that is actually according to their parameters, and I can share the link if you do want to look into it in a bit more detail, but that was their strongest option for producing the best outputs, is that critique sort of GPT into Claude to refine. Or you can just go directly with Claude then, if you want to go down that route. And with this then, so if I just go into the model council, you'll see straight away it comes up there saying that both models will be used. And with Researcher, even outside the model council, you get these pre-built prompts. So these are actually really good, really strong if you want to try them out. So I'm going to try and find the Researcher topic one, which is here somewhere, if I can find it. Researcher topic, where's that gone? There it is. So if you just click that, it'll come up with a really strong prompt ready to go. So I think I've seen a few messages coming up about building better prompts. So these are good prompts to not only learn from how to develop those prompts, but also, templates that you can just use straight away. So, sorry, I think I've clicked the wrong one there. That's the partnership. So if I get rid of that, researcher topic should be this one. Yeah, there we are, that's better. So I'm going to drop in AI there. I'm going to research the topic of AI. And here, just quickly, I noted that it does ask for my organization's file. So I'm going to take that out just for this demo, just in case. So use data from, I'm just going to use external sources in model council and click send. So this then, like I said, model council will run that exact same prompt in both models. So you've got your GPT and Claude. And what Researcher will do is it'll ask you a few clarification questions. So like I said, because it goes off for about 10 to 30 minutes, it needs to make sure it's accurate and detailed. You don't want to waste half an hour coming back with something that's not relevant. So it'll typically ask you three questions just to make sure that it has all the right data. But for now, I'm just going to press go ahead just for the demo purposes, but I would typically put some more information in there just to make sure. And that then goes off and runs that. So I'm hoping it'll pop up in a sec, and then I'll show you the, yeah, there we are. So it runs that exact same prompt in GPT and Claude. It'll then give you an output. So I'm not going to wait then while that loads. So if I go back to this one here, I've already done the exact same prompt. So just to show you, it's the exact same prompt, and I press go ahead. So it gives you both model outputs. It gives you a bit of a summary at the top. It'll give you some differences, and then it'll give you top areas. So this is handy, a table of top areas of agreement and top areas of disagreement underneath then. So that's where you can have a look and see, you know, some of these stats are very similar, and then down the bottom, some of these claims are different. So and it'll try and explain. So for example, with that one, there's a huge difference in the figures, but that's because it's looking at a broader scope, for example. And what you can then do is drill down. So I can drill down to the GPT and access that in full. So you've got a full research of AI there based off the GPT model output, and that will be according to your specified structure that you put in the prompt as well. And then you can just click up the top here, and that will take you straight through to the same prompt but output in Claude. So you can compare and contrast then and see which ones you prefer, and make a sort of strategic decision then on how, you know, what models you incorporate into your AI strategies and AI policies. And yeah, I just seen a comment, always check the outputs. That's 100%. I'd agree with that, and always drill down to the sources and verify those then as well. And just at the end, so I've got one more. So if I just flick back to PowerPoint quickly, the next bit I wanted to show is the edit with Copilot. So this is the new default mode within Copilot, within Office apps. So originally it was called agent mode, you might have seen. And the difference there was agent mode would let you do direct edits to your Word documents, your Excels, all those kind of things, instead of just outputting to the chat. And since it's gone generally available, so this isn't part of the frontier, but it was a latest update in the Wave 3. This is now generally available as it's now termed Edit with Copilot. So like I said, it takes away that sort of barrier where you have to copy and paste everything in. It will directly access your Office apps, especially things like Excel, but also things like Word, PowerPoint, all those kind of ones. So just to do another quick demo on this. So this time I'm going to open Excel. We are running quite tight on time, so I'll try and go through this quite quickly. So I've got some fictional data here. We looked at sort of sales data earlier, so I've tried to do a bit more of an educational one here. So a sort of sample college data based on some student satisfaction scores and grades and pass marks and things like that. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to open Copilot within Excel. And like I said, so this is now the default. So this is the edit with Copilot mode. So it says allow editing. Previously, it would have only been chat only, and then you have to copy and paste. So making sure that's on, I'm just going to drop a sample prompt in. So I'm basically asking it to analyze the data, create a summary table based on some average scores and things like that. If I just zoom out a bit, just so I can see when this comes up. So again, this is generally available now within the M365 Copilot license. So it's not a frontier feature. So this, if you've got the paid license, this should be generally available to you. So you can see this come up straight away with that table. If I go onto some of these values, you can see that it's actually been built with underlying formulas. So it's not just hard coded with data, it's actually built upon this original data set. And it's the same with the graph then. So for example, if I was to change that business score down from a 3 to a 1, you see that automatically adjusted in the graph straight away. And likewise, I'm pretty sure the fourth one down here when I was testing was engineering. So if I drop that one in the original data set from a 5 to a 1, they should have a slight impact. Yeah, so if I just undo that and redo. Right here on the engineering, you can see that that drops from a 4.11 to a 3.91, and it's the same then in the graph. So the graph, the new table, is all linked back to that underlying data, and it's all been created with actual formulas, and it'll tell you how that's been done as well. It'll give you an explanation of what it's done, why, and even giving you some key insights then as well, which again is a very powerful tool. So that's just a quick one of the new edit with Copilot. If I just go back to PowerPoint quickly, because I know we are quite short on time. This is just a quick, because I know there's a lot of education institutions in here today. There's a lot that aren't in education, so I'll make it brief. But if you haven't used the Teach and Study and Learn yet, so these are Microsoft's AI-powered education tools built using Copilot. If you've got an academic ASCII license, these are available at no additional cost. So you don't need the premium Copilot. You can start using these straight away. So you've got the teach mode, which is the teacher and educator side, and then you've got the study and learn then for the students. And if I just go on, so we did a full webinar back in November, so I think Tom's going to post a link to that one if you're going to go and watch it in detail. But just in terms of the new updates, so there was a lot back then that were sort of coming soon or about to be released. So there has been a lot of those features now become generally available, as you can see there. So yeah, please go and use them. If you want to know what each of these does, like I said, watch that November recording back where I go through all of them in a bit more detail, and you can understand how they work, even the ones that weren't generally available. So I'm pretty sure all these in the list are covered in that. And again, this just gives a quick snapshot of what you can see. So I logged into an education demo tenant, and you can see all those activities and everything ready to go. So you can do lesson planning, you can do all the sort of modify existing content tools. You've got your rubrics and quizzes, things like that. And you've also got your flashcards, fill in the blanks. All those are now generally available. And just a quick one on the student side. So I just tested this out. And because this is an agent designed to guide students as opposed to just giving answers. So here I've tried to sort of act as a young pupil asking it some simple questions. And it won't just give me the answer to 4 + 4. You can see there that it asks you, how would you go about trying to work that out? And I've tried to answer with how maybe a young pupil learning that would answer, and I've actually given it the wrong answer just to see. And then the output then you can see there just up here. It won't just say that's wrong, the answer is 8. You know, it'll encourage them, it'll tell them what they've done right, and then try and gently guide them to the correct answer then. So yeah, it's got those guardrails and it's been designed with that in mind then. So that's just the education side of things very quickly. And if I pop back to, actually I'm still in PowerPoint. So in terms of what's next, we would love to help you on that sort of AI journey. So whether you're starting off with the free tools, on the paid tools, looking at the more advanced agents and things like that. I just want to bring this up quickly. So while I'm here, if you haven't seen our brand new website yet, please go and check it out. So we've got all the latest vendors on here. So your Microsoft, your Adobe, your software security, all those kind of things. We've got a lot of vendors on there and their solutions. If I just go back to the main page, the one I really wanted to show based on today's webinar was, so we've got the 4 key sort of solution areas. And if I click through to the AI and Copilot services, so we do offer bilingual services, English and Welsh. They can be hybrid, remote, on-site, however works best for you. We provide Art of the Possible sessions, so similar to today, where we show what's possible and sort of start those light bulb moments of how you can be using it. So good for your decision makers and your AI champions to start thinking about your sort of longer term AI adoption and how you can train your users. So again, that's just a complimentary short half-an-hour session if you're interested in that. And we find then that they tend to sort of lead on to the more advanced training and adoption. So we've got the Copilot Essentials. So this actually covers broader AI tools as well, not just Copilot. So starts off with the free tools, teaches your users how to start using them in their day-to-day activities, start looking at prompting techniques and live promptathon workshops to build confidence. Onto the advanced training then around Copilot paid licenses in the Office apps like we've looked at today. So a lot more productivity and efficiency gains around there, and also looking at those agents and start sort of thinking about possibly building your own agents. And on the teach and study and learn side in education, we can also do tailored sessions for them. So we're seeing some interest now, especially with summer approaching, around inset days and staff training days. So if that's something you're interested in, then please do get in touch. And just quickly, because apologies, I am slightly over, but we've got plenty of other things on there. So we've got the case studies on there, some new ones, some really good ones. So the Grey Theatre Company is a really good one around the hardware side. So please go and check some of them out. We've got upcoming events. So a nice plug for next month's event we've got here. So next month it's the 24th of June. It's been pushed on a week, usually the third Wednesday, but because of availability, we've pushed that on to the 24th. You can register free for that. And we are bringing in Know Before for that one. So their security awareness training solutions and how they're sort of looking at combating how the attackers are using some of these advanced AI tools as well. And so it's something critical, really. Just briefly as well, if there's anyone local, we're doing the Aberystwyth Business Networking in June coming up. Welcome to come along to that. Any local organisations. For Welsh non-profits and charities, this is WCVA's flagship annual event in Cardiff. So we'll have a presence there with a stand at Gofod Tree. So we'd love to see you there. And then the Eisteddfod is coming up in August. We'll also have a presence there. Anybody's welcome to that. So that's the sort of annual national Eisteddfod for Wales. Right, so that was a lot. Just before I finish, also the shop there. So if you're into hardware, so if you're looking at laptops, headsets, all the way up to meeting room devices, large interactive boards, digital signage, please do go and check out that hardware shop as well from the website. Right, so I think that brings us to the end. I think Tom's going to launch a very short poll now. If you are happy to fill that out just with some feedback and some suggestions. So if there's something I haven't touched upon today and you want to feed that back and we can look at that for next month or some of the upcoming webinars, then please do give us that feedback. So that should be popping up, and then I'll just head back to here then for Q&A. So I'm not sure if there's any questions come through in the chat, Tom, that haven't already been answered. I think I've seen a few pop up and a few answers already, but please let me know if there's any come in.
Yeah, so there's a few questions in the chat. So I'm going to start off with, do you have to use Cowork, or can you also do the same in Copilot itself? And will it give you the same output?
If that's talking about the Cowork, so you've got two things really. You've got the Claude integrations, which is specifically for the frontier side of things. So that's in Cowork and your things like Researcher with a Model Council. But then you've got the actual Cowork itself, which goes off and runs those intensive tasks. So that isn't yet in the main Copilot. It's a preview feature. I'm guessing it will become generally available soon, but for the time being, it's so to access things like those draft emails and things like that, and really run those intensive multitask, multi-app workflows. That's specific to Cowork at the moment, yeah. But I'm sure it'll come available in the main M365 Copilot further down the line then.
Cool. Thank you. Next, I presume you can also prompt it to create the slide deck following your brand guidelines.
Yeah, that was a point I had actually, but it was quite not rushed, but I had a lot to get through in the end. But that was one of the key points I had. So you can feed it, so you could even send it to a SharePoint folder or something, for example, with all your brand documents, your brand guidelines, your sample report, sample reports, sample PowerPoints, all that kind of stuff. So you can ask it to keep those in mind then and build it within those brand guidelines. Yeah.
Another question then. I'd like to improve my prompting skills. Can you recommend any good starting points for this or prompt libraries for Copilot? I have noticed that someone has answered the chat. They use Prompt Genie, but I don't know if you've got any other recommendations at all.
Can you still see my Copilot there?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, if I go back to here quickly, there is a pre-built agent by Microsoft, actually. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, where is it? Oh no, writing coach. There is a prompt coach somewhere. Frontline agent. Let's see if I can search for it. Yeah, there we are. So I'm not sure if this is available using the free one or if it's just a premium version, but definitely because we got the M365 Premium Copilot, there's a pre-built Microsoft agent called Prompt Coach, so you can use that to start developing your prompts. But also things like if you're prompting Copilot, you can ask it how can I improve my prompt? What additional information should I be providing in my prompt to give you more information or more structured details to build the output on? And, like I said, going back to our services, we can do sort of essentials training. So we've done quite a lot of sessions around prompting. So we use the Microsoft sort of recommended prompt framework, the GCSE framework, so we can go through that in detail with your users if you want. We can set up an essential sort of training package for you based on that. And even, like I said, do the live promptathons then, which we've seen a huge increase in people's skills and confidence just within sort of a half hour to an hour session of starting off with basic prompts, applying that prompt framework, and then, moving on from there really and strengthening your prompting as you go. So yeah, there's quite a few options there. But yeah, if you do want to go down the services route, then please get in touch.
Cool. If you have an Excel doc with several tabs in it, do you have to say the actual tab name and file name to pull the financial info from as part of Claude AI?
You can be as specific as you want, really. So in my prompt, I just named the SharePoint folder and it found it there. You could also specifically reference, well, you can either name the file or you can do an actual reference. So in Copilot, you can reference files directly. So if I do a / you can go to files and reference it directly that way. And yeah, you can even tell it, so Cowork's quite powerful and you can tell it which tab to access if you want to be quite specific. If you want it to access the whole Excel, then you can just reference the file as a whole. Or if you want to go down to the tab level, you can, yeah.
Next question. How impressed were you with the accuracy of the researcher for the risk assessment?
Massively, to be honest. I've spoken about it a few times actually, and I'll happily admit that it was a lot better than anything I could have produced. The level of detail, but also like that question asked about the accuracy. So it took a good 20 minutes to feed that back, and it was also heavily sourced. So it was referencing the actual files that I was uploading, so official framework documentation, contracts, terms and conditions, those kind of things. So if you were unsure on a particular point, you could drill down to that exact point in the terms and conditions, for example. So, you're talking a 75-page document and you can drill exactly to where that is, so you can verify. So yeah, because we had a good sort of understanding of the tender anyway, we could tell straight away that it was very accurate. But anything like that where you're unsure of, you can drill down to the sources then, especially if it's an external source. So if it goes off to a website and comes back with information from a publicly available website or an external source, then it's definitely worth drilling down and verifying that. But in terms of accuracy, we found it very, very good.
I think I'm just coming up to my last question now. I have access to Cowork and have used it before, but I'm unable to pin it to my left bar. Do you know the reason for this?
I haven't actually tried. It's always shown there for me, but it should just be a pin there like that.
They have put a picture of their problem. So I think what we'll do is I think we'll reach out to them and see, we'll offer some support for that one.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, it should just be a case of clicking pin. Yeah, I can look into that in a bit more detail, and if there's like a glitch or some sort of technical issue that's stopping that. But like I said, it is a frontier preview, so even when I was testing it, there was a few instances where it would sort of hit errors and things, and that's the whole point of that testing period then, is to make sure that those get ironed out before general availability. But yeah, it should be fairly straightforward, but we can look into that.
Brilliant. Yeah, and that's the last question. So back to you for close, please.
Cool, perfect. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, sorry for being slightly over, but I think the Q&A were certainly useful to go through. So some really interesting questions there, but we leave it there for now. Any further questions, or if you want to get in touch with any services, please just get in touch. Details are on the screen, or I think Tom will post a link to the contact us on the page as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you next month in the next webinar, or any of those sort of in-person events as well, then if there's anyone sort of local. So yeah, thanks again for joining. We'll be joined by No before next month, so see you then. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr.